Luigi Mangione plead guilty to the murder of Brian Thompson. His confession included mention of a ghost gun made with a 3D printer. This is about the worst thing that could have happened in this country. There is nothing worse that you could find than this. There is nothing that could have happened worse than this, and I will explain why. The killing of Brian Thompson was the last thing that made me have hope for this country. After the re-election of Donald Trump, I thought I knew it was over for us, you know. I was honestly considering suicide, and the reason I didn't kill myself was because I saw Luigi Mangione shoot that man 3 times in the back. I watched the footage, watched it again, watched the person watching it on their computer screen, and I was like, you know what? We have power. These people are immortal, and they can be killed. We the people of this country, we might be disenfranchised, gerrymandered, lied to, propagandized, manipulated. And hell, at the time I was kind of believing in Blue Anon, so I thought they might have been rigged by Elon Musk and his satellites. I don't believe that anymore. Because the American people are fucking stupid, and I'll get to that later, why I believe that now, and I didn't believe that back then. But like, at the end of the day, these people, Brian Thompson, Peter Thiel, Alex Kipp, they are human beings that we can kill. We can kill them. They can die. We don't have to have 100,000 people suffering because one person with the authority to kill anyone they want to decide that 100,000 people are going to die. They put in place a system with AI that just denies 99% of people that need healthcare. No. Because any one of us can go walk up behind them and shoot them in the back. And the billionaires thought that too. They had mass group therapy sessions sobbing about how they thought they were going to be killed by all the people they tried to suppress. And that felt good. That felt like opportunity, like hope. I fucking believed. I believed that that could be it. That these billionaires might actually die. That we might actually take back this damn country. We could kill them all. We could seize their assets. We could do what we needed to do to ensure those fuckers that they never have control again. That the systems that put them in place wouldn't be able to operate because we'd kill them. We'd kill the people who were killing us. That we could put in place some check and balance, the only check and balance that this country would ever have, by killing the people who got too egregious. Peter Thiel, Alex Kipp joke about killing all of us, and then someone comes up and kills them. Yeah, a different person takes the reins, but they wouldn't be as absurd. They wouldn't be as obscene, because they would fear being taken out by us. And this is how societies would always run. There was this invisible backbone of people who were in power were afraid of facing physical violence in retaliation if they pissed off their subjects too much. But that doesn't exist anymore. And so now you have armed agents marching down the streets, joking about how racist they are, grabbing children and random people of color and just beating them into the ground. And I figured it was because the American people were afraid. And I thought, well, you know, I too am afraid. But I want to believe there are people who are braver than me. I want to believe there are people in this world who are better than me because I'm all too familiar with all my shortcomings. And so I started making these videos, thinking I'd just project out into the world, and if everyone else did the same, maybe the right person would get the right message at the right time. And the happenings just got more obscene, you know? You have ICE agents hanging people, hog tying and hanging people, people getting sent, hundreds of thousands of people being sent to random unknown facilities and probably almost certainly killed. Deportation flights going to random fucking places. Just trafficking people, the hundreds of thousands. We saw children grabbed and gagged. We saw ICE agents marching around saying, "Fuck them kids." We saw ICE agents shooting people, white people. And yet the American people did nothing. You had marches down the streets with their No Kings rally. Bullshit. Was that a release valve? Was that all the pressure there was to release? But every once in a while, there was one thing that I didn't expect. A warehouse in California, different people. A person burns down their paper warehouse when they're facing eviction. Warehouses are burning across the country and they're not being reported on. And I believed, because I wanted to, but that was a sign something was changing. A man who burned down a wealthy neighborhood in California, the jury hung on his conviction. And I wanted to believe that was a sign of that there was some hope, there was some unmet anger in the working class that could unite and not unite in one big movement, because, I mean, the government's equipped to take that down. We saw that with Occupy Wall Street. We saw that with LulzSec. Like, the FBI can infiltrate anything. It doesn't matter. Any group is now going to be suspicious of their members because of those FBI infiltrations. It's not even that there always are feds there. It's that people always fear feds being present. Which pretty much means any sort of united effort is going to be hampered. But I thought, yes, they can indict us. Yes, they can arrest us. Yes, they can break down our doors. But if Luigi Mangione gets acquitted, at least that would show the world, show whatever other potential lone wolves there are out there, it would show them that they won't get convicted. That they can do this, get fame, and then walk away. And I was thinking, that could be the outlet. That could be what our otherwise, like, people who would otherwise become school shooters could do this instead. Instead of shooting up a school for one day of coverage, which they don't even really give anymore because no one cares. Everyone knows schools get shot up, but no one cares in this country anymore. Instead, they could shoot a CEO and be praised forever. When Cole Thomas Allen tried to shoot Donald Trump, I made him a tribute game because I felt really connected to his writing, but also because I was hoping that after the people get the idea that you can kill these rich folk and the jury of our peers will not convict you, that the people who would otherwise just want fame would see that being a working class revolutionary would get you fame. Tribute memes, tribute art, a tribute video game. I thought maybe I could make myself like some sort of name for myself by being the person who gives those tribute games. But if Luigi Mangione, the most well-known working class hero, if he doesn't have that jury decision, the people are never going to see it. We needed this. We needed Luigi to go to trial. We needed the jury to acquit him, or at least hang enough times but it really would have if it hung over and over again, it would have shown that they can't get a conviction. If they acquitted him, it would have been a bombshell. But he pleaded guilty. Now, I don't know. Maybe he was coerced. Maybe he was threatened behind the scenes. It's just really unfortunate timing, especially given that the guilty plea mentions a 3D printed gun. And I'm going to read you the plea right here. Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty on Friday in a federal case in relation to the killing of UnitedHealthcare executive Brian Thompson in 2024. Luigi Mangione pleads guilty to causing UnitedHealthcare CEO's death in federal case. This is by The Guardian. Mangione confessed that he shot and killed Thompson outside a New York City hotel on December 4th, 2024. In his federal case, he faced stalking charges after other charges, including murder, were dropped. I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died, Mangione said towards the end of a hasty scheduled 45-minute hearing. He added, I knew what I was doing was illegal, but he did not say that he was wrong or that he had any regrets. The judge, Margaret Garnett, scheduled his sentencing for 18th of December in 2026. Mangione's federal trial had been due to begin next year, but now will not happen, while state charges against him were still in the balance on Friday afternoon. In the separate state case, Manhattan prosecutors have charged Mangione with murder and weapons counts, and that trial is scheduled for 8th of December 2026. He had previously pleaded not guilty in both cases. Within minutes of the guilty plea to stalking charges in the federal case and his admissions in courts on Friday morning, Mangione's defense lawyer, Karen Friedman Agnifilio, said she had filed a motion to dismiss a state murder against him. Federal prosecutor Jamie McDonald told the court the government would seek life imprisonment for the killer. Maryland-born Mangione, 28, came into court on Friday morning in beige jail scrubs, with his ankles shackled, a change from recent appearances where he was in a jacket and shirt. He had been brought to the Manhattan courthouse from custody in Brooklyn. Relatives of Thompson were in court, in a rare occurrence, sitting in the front row, and some of the family members began crying as Mangione told the judge what he had done. Among the relatives in court was Brian Thompson's widow, Paulette Thompson, fuck that bitch, who was breathing heavily and grasping a loved one's arm as Mangione described shooting her husband on a busy city sidewalk. Other family members held each other's hands. Mangione told the court that after years of enduring severe pain from a broken back, navigating the obstacles of the health insurance system, and witnessing similar experiences of everyone else, countless others, he learned that UnitedHealthcare would be holding its annual investor conference on 4th December 2024. The location was not public, but he traveled to New York City and emailed UnitedHealthcare leadership, posing as an institutional investor. Okay, you could do this. This is something you could do to get more information. Getting a response within an hour. Yippee! He also researched who would be attending. Mangione then said he printed a gun with a 3D printer and affixed it with a silencer. Now this is what I need you. We need to pause. We need to say, hold on. That is very unfortunate timing. And it does air some credence to the people who are going to argue this was a coerced, illegally coerced, guilty plea. I certainly think that there was probably pressure around this confession because they wanted him to talk about the 3D printed gun, because as Louis Rossman and other accounts have been pointing out, there is a state-by-state effort to put restrictions on what you can print or not print, to take away the autonomy of the people to make their own repair parts, to make their own equipment, because they want to have us all controlled by the same companies. They are using ghost guns as a concept to fearmonger people into pushing their representatives, their state representatives, for state-level bans of 3D printed guns. Anyways, let's continue with the article. I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan, and he died, Luigi Mangione said. When I did so, I understood that my actions would place him in fear of death or serious bodily injury. I knew what I was doing was illegal. So he didn't say that, he tried to murder him. He said that he intentionally shot him and knew that it would put him at risk of death and bodily injury. There were gasps in court as the prosecution described how Brian Thompson was probably aware of what had happened to him as he turned to face his killer between the first and second bullets hitting him. Probably. As Mangione stood in the street with his gun raised, fuck yeah, The judge said earlier that Mangione was in a fit state to plea. He was asked a series of questions pertaining to whether he was in a fit mental state to plea and whether he had been coerced. Mangione's case had drawn extensive global attention as Thompson's death spurred intense discussion about the U.S.'s heavily criticized for-profit healthcare system. The attention has also been fueled by Mangione's rise to virtual folk hero status among some of his supporters. Let's go. And although there were almost none of the most vocal fans dubbed Mangionistas outside the courthouse on Friday, Mangione's decision to plead guilty in the federal trial came after days of intense speculation that his case would resolve before trial. Mere hours after a final pre-trial conference in his state case, federal prosecutors and his defense had submitted a joint letter requesting a proceeding. New York double jeopardy law could now preclude the state case from going ahead. Under New York state law, a person may not be twice prosecuted. Under New York state law, a person may not be twice prosecuted for the same offense, and a person may not be separately prosecuted for two offenses based upon the same act or criminal transaction. That's important because he didn't plead guilty to murder or attempted murder. A state appeals court decision points out, however, that these statements preclude the word unless with a list of exemptions, which I'm not going to go into. It's not important what happens at the state case. Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's in Atlanta, Pennsylvania, on 9th of December 2024 after a dramatic search to find Thompson's killer. Mangione, in April 2025, pleaded not guilty to federal charges that he stalked and murdered Thompson. Not long after Mangione's arrest, Pam Bondi, the then U.S. Attorney General, because she no longer is, announced that she would instruct prosecutors to seek the death penalty. She said that Thompson's killing was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. Bondi also said that her position was aligned with Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Margaret Garnett, here, threw out 2 of the 4 counts in Mangione's federal indictment, including the death penalty-eligible charge of murder through use of a firearm, meaning this punishment was off the table. Garnett said the U.S. Supreme Court precedents made the murder charge incompatible with the 2 stalking charges. This case will proceed to trial on counts 1 and 2, which charge the defendant with causing Brian Thompson's death under 2 federal stalking laws. Garnett said in her order, the potential maximum punishment for each of these offenses is life in prison without parole. Defense attorney Friedman Agnifilio said that Mangione took full responsibility for Thompson's death. She added about his experience with the insurance giant UnitedHealthcare, like the thousands of people who have reached out since this tragedy to share their own experiences, he believed that the system had failed him and destroyed his life. Yes, it had. Yes, it had. Brian Thompson's family issued a statement saying the guilty plea marks an important step towards justice for Brian and for our family. While nothing will ease the pain of losing him, we are grateful that the federal justice system has held the person responsible for this heinous act accountable. McDonald, the prosecutor, said that there could be no celebrity in assassination, and any person encouraging or excusing actions like Mangione's was fundamentally wrong. Violence is not a legitimate instrument to promote any political or social message, he said. So what do we do now? And to that, I don't know. I don't know what we do now. This doesn't change everything. I mean, the U.S. military still got their ass kicked by Iran. But I think this is going to be a major detraction from the courage, the will of the people of this country to fight back. I don't know. I think blue or red, we're marching into a form of surveillance capital, techno-feudalism, not really capitalism, it's techno-feudalism at this point it's evolved into, which is, of course, involving fascism. Maybe environmental catastrophe is going to hit us, and the response is going to be militarization. Instead of, stopping the problems, we're just going to have the military deployed whenever there's an issue that causes instability and social unrest. Like that's where the vote blue no matter who route takes us. And I don't really know what to do. I'm going to think about it. My next video will be whatever I decide the answer is. Right now, I'm just very numb. It's not that I fully expected anything to work out. It's just this was the best answer I could find. You know, and I think I put my whole self behind it, which admittedly isn't much. I mean, my health has only been getting worse, in large part due to the chronic stress of living in America. I might have been able to give a whole lot more to this back in like 2023. But I've tried, you know. I wanted this to work out. I wanted hope for the American people. For the future of my country, because it is my country. Whatever happens here is going to be my future. The one idea I do have that's like the one lead I have right now in my head is the Gen Z quiet quitters laying flat, the folks opting to not get jobs, to not participate in the economy, to not participate in society. And not to be lone wolf attackers, but just to be a collective stoppage. A stoppage. People who are choosing not to have kids, choosing not to get a job, who are laying flat, taking whatever services they can use, which, I mean, arguably is what I've been doing my whole life, too. I think that's the answer. If nothing else, it has worked so far. You know, you see all these articles complaining about the birth rate. You see all these people freaking out about Gen Z not working and not being employable and whatnot. And with Gen Alpha growing up in all this chaos, like, they aren't very employable either. So it seems like the movement of Gen Z and Gen Alpha not getting jobs is kind of destined to succeed because they aren't employable by many standards. So the answer might be resisting any effort to make Gen Z and Gen Alpha more employable. Okay, I've started going off on something different there, and I've stopped and redone takes over and over again. This is a topic for a different video, but somehow making my I'm all depressed videos got my brain actually rolling on this. So I really did hope that the acquittal of Luigi Mangione would have been some galvanizing spark that ignites the working class to just kill a bunch of other people, as the original killing did seem to be doing. I mean, a lot of folks did kill their bosses, but perhaps the answer is a more controlled dismantling of these systems, just by a collective opting out.